Hey guys, here we're done here, and we're going back into the patch notes. 3.0.4. I know this is a little bit late compared to all the other patch notes we put out there, but this is the last patch notes that we're going to have. There's been a lot of stuff going on, and I just didn't get to it up to this point. And really, this is the last update till release here. And the release stuff is going to have more than this on top of it. But this has some interesting things we should mention as well. You're going to see the full patch notes when it comes out on the 22nd for console people. That's going to be back on June 6th. Apologize for console people. You have to wait that long. But let's take a quick rundown of some of the patch notes that came up this week here and what it kind of means to all this here. Alright, so got Battlegrounds updates, general updates, Battlegrounds achievements, rewards. Okay. Combat gameplay. Animal companions. Fetcher Swarm. Reduce more damage bonus and on every other cast to 50% and 75%. Swarm. Increase the damage and this ability is Morse by 10%. Okay. Bring more effective Morse closer to the line to others while discouraging the need for always casting Fetcher Infections twice in a row. Alright. Economy, dungeon group content, more stuff changing with the halls of fabrication in the public dungeon, furnishings, temporarily removed, all that other good stuff. You guys are mostly here for the class update stuff. I know, we're going to get into that. Housing editor, fix issues the NPC spawning between beneath the ground. Alright. Oh, I actually should probably change the cam here a little bit. Sorry about that. But you can make it a little easier for folks to read here, even though you're probably just listening to this in the background. UI, battleground stuff here, combat. Okay, so there's a lot of complaints with the heavy attack meta. And they did make some changes to make this a little bit better and easier for things on our other end here. However, not quite well enough. And I will say this, like ZOS has a tendency to do this with every patch where they make a bunch of changes. It looks like they're nosediving into the ground, and at the last second, they pull themselves back up and kind of coast off into the sunset somehow, and everything's happy and dory. This is skimming the ground a bit. This is not a great meta. Hopefully they're going to be pulling this back a little bit better, because still this puts a high meta to doing heavy attacks inside of your weaves. Not what a lot of people want to be doing, and you know it has some use to it, but it doesn't change things enough that people are going to be changing their builds. All right, so now increasing the damage on light attacks by 15%, decreasing the damage on heavy attacks by 15%, increasing the resources restored from fully charged heavy attack by 30%, reduce the cast time for fully charged bow with heavy attacks by 10%, reduce the cast time for fully charged flame and frost heavy attacks by 12.5%. Fixing issue with enchantment bonuses will not be displayed on an item. Fixed an issue where the summoned pets were not being affected by healing spirit, healing reduction in battle spirit. Now we're receiving 50% less healing in the PvP areas. Okay, so let's get into their reasoning here. I'll give my spiel on my reasoning. There are two goals with this change above. First, we wanted the damage and difference on light attacks and weaving and heavy attack weaving to be more prominent. Light attack should be a clear winner where you're trying to maximize your damage per second. Where heavy attacks, you should be deal less damage per second in exchange for more resources. Secondly, we want to speed up the slowest heavy attacks while increasing the amount of resources all heavy attacks are stored. This should improve the combat feel, winding up for some of the slow heavy attacks while also allowing for all builds to restore resources faster with less heavy attack that's needed. Again, it really shouldn't be one or the other. It needs to be, okay, here's the light attacks, here's the heavy attacks, here's the builds for this one, here's the builds for that one. Like, this business of trying to mix them in together with the weaves is just kind of going to piss people off, because a lot of people would just simply want to either do a light attack build or a heavy attack build, not in between. In addition to that, they don't give enough synergy to light and heavy attacks with some of this here. By reducing the heavy attack damage, they really kind of nerf like the DKs using their molten armaments to raise up their heavy attack damage. And what's the point of it now that you're getting more damage with the light attacks? That you're getting more resources? Not really. So they got to come up with some better integration with this. In addition to that, increasing the time on the increasing the time on the bow attacks is okay, but they need to do something else on the Destro here, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. All right, Dragonite, Ardent Flame, Fury Grip. Reduce the cost of the ability as a march by 7%. Inhale, reduce the cost of this by 6%. Spiked Armor, reduce the cost of this ability by about 16%. Nothing really big with these. They're reducing the cost. They're trying to make it a little bit better, but not entirely great. I wish it was a bit more. I mean, I kind of see where they're going to get these things, but these aren't anything that's really great for DPS on magical or stamina builds. It's more of a tank build type of thing, and that slight reduction isn't great. I mean they're trying to make it more in line, but it's not a great update here. So now Nightblade, because people are asking in thing here. Okay, Grim Focus. You can now fire multiple Assassin's Will or Assassin's Scourge bow procs in a single cast for the ability Morse. Increase the amount of light or heavy attacks needed to obtain Assassin's Will or Assassin's Scourge bows proc to 5 attacks from 4. Okay. Merciless Resolve, Grim Focus Morph. Reduce the duration of the snare in this Morph's Assassin's Will proc for 3 seconds to 5 seconds. This allows you to fire multiple Assassin's Will procs from a single cast in Grim Focus, which is streamline the ability by eliminating some of the recast earlier. We increase the amount of attacks needed for obtaining a single proc, but the net result should increase the Nightblade PvE DPS with the extra global cooldowns. Kind of, sort of. I understand where they're going with this. I know a lot of people are talking about this ability making that a Magic and Nightblade is going to be a lot better for PvE now. However, not entirely sure if we're going to see enough on this. They have to have, as Nightblades in general need to have better AoE. They did update Twisting Path, but some of the other classes have better AoE, which is also what kind of drives people to take people into trials, that they have good single target damage and good AoE damage to deal with the mobs in between. Not sure if this is enough for Nightblades yet. Sorcerers. Daedric Summon Twilight Matriarch. Fixed the issue with the Morse heal abilities could heal through walls. Okay, they fixed that. In addition to that, I know another update that's coming up is they are going to nerf the Scamp because it is doing too much damage and giving them an advantage inside trials. However, even if they nerf the Scamp, a lot of trial builds aren't necessarily using Scamp all the time, because Scamp can be a little bit of a bit of a pain on certain fights. And Sorks are still doing good damage without the Scamp. So this, again, is not a big enough nerf not to make them, again, the biggest, highest DPS class out there. That's it. Templar. Okay, Dawn's Wrath. Nova. Decrease the time it takes for Nova to this ability. It is Morse to drop from 0.5 seconds from 0.75 seconds. Okay, yeah, this makes sense here. Nova sometimes takes a while to drop, and this kind of puts it a little bit more in line for other ultimates. Weapon. Two-hander. Forceful. The passive of this now splashes 3 targets, up from 2, and splash damage has been increased from 25 to 50%, from 13 to 25%. Okay, so two-hander. Okay, let's read their comments here. The changes improves area. The changes will improve the area effect damage for two-hander while giving them similar splash damage to lightning staffs. Two-hander builds will have a stronger light attack splash damage, while lightning staffs will have the strongest heavy attack splash damage. I have issues with this. Part of the reason here is that we keep on perpetuating the meta for ranged attacks doing as much or better damage than close range melee attacks. I have a post on the forums right now. I do encourage everyone to look at it when they get a chance here. But if you take a look at some of the higher end trials guilds, one of the reasons they don't bring stamina builds into trials is because they're a liability. When you're up close with melee range abilities, you have a lot more chance to get hit by any of the AoE stuff there to prevent stacking and other mechanics like that. Ads hitting you, the boss turning around and hitting you, and you have no time to react. And you also lose your resources to dodge and block while you're using stamina abilities. Magicka builds, on the other hand, use Magicka. They can still dodge, they can still block. They have less armor, but really, the only thing that's going to mitigate you from not getting killed is a block, not any type of armor that you have, unless you're a tank. This meta has to change, I feel, because again, they have to make it so that the melees have to be doing more damage for the risk that they're taking. That's where they have to go with this. This here, with the perpetuating the two-hander, well, it gets better damage to the light attacks, and lightning's getting better damage to the heavy attacks. It's still not enough. Lightning needs to be nerfed a bit more than the people that are in two-hander range. And it's not to say that magic abilities need to be nerfed either. If a magic ability is being used point blank in a melee range just as a DK using its whip, yeah, fine. It should be doing more damage than somebody that's sitting back there using force bolts. That makes sense to me. But again, take a look on the forums, take a look at my post on that and that whole rant there. But this is good, but not enough. Dual wield. Blade Cloak, increase the effectiveness of the increase the range, increase the area effect damage reduction of this ability from 25% from 20%. Okay, that's good. That's not anything bad. Dark Anchors. Oh, if you're currently grinding on Dark Anchors, pay attention. Static Charge will now be removed from you completely when the Dark Anchor is completed. There is a patch on this, or there's been updates on this previously here that it's going to give you a debuff, and it's going to damage you for going into Dark Anchors, okay? So the more people you have in there, just like spamming abilities and just not doing anything, they're going to get damaged, they're going to get hurt. So you actually have to do the anchor to get the experience. You can't simply show up, do one or two abilities. That static charge is going to build up and probably kill you if you're not careful, especially with more people coming in and out. So Dark Anchors here, be careful when you're around them. Static charge will go away, but if you're grinding on it now, get used to it, or get your levels in now, and then get ready for things to change in the future. Okay, crafting and economy, general issues fixed. Yep. Housing, miscellaneous, Shoal-Shriven, Cold Harbor, yada yada yada. So this is the last patch notes. They will have some more stuff coming up on live when it comes up next Monday. So you take a look when that comes out. It is a bit interesting that they're pulling back some of the changes and give a bit more damage on the light attacks so people can have better weaves on things, but not quite enough to make some people happy. I think that they annoyed some people with this, and again, some of those people are just not going to come back because a lot of people were kind of looking for an excuse to leave and bring others with them. I think this kind of needs to be scaled back, and I think they got to get themselves in a position where they're going to have more interesting builds, more build diversities, and more ways to play. Again, this is a game that was touted as, play how you want. So again, they got to come up with a better ways to handle that at this point. Not necessarily going to be this patch, unfortunately. You're going to have a whole another thing here, but you at least have the Morrowind stuff to take a look forward to. You have the Warden stuff to get used to, and we'll take a look at that in the channel a little bit later, okay? And anyways, thanks for looking at these patch notes with me in the meantime.